Hey everyone, today I wanted to talk about this book called Scale. It's by Geoffrey West, and it talks about how organisms, companies, cities, and economies are all related to each other, and they have the same scaling principles and network abilities. And here's Geoffrey West, the author, introducing himself at a talk by Google.
So I'm a physicist, and as was said in the introduction, I spent most of my career doing high energy physics, quarks and gluons and string theory and dark matter and so on and so forth. And in a way, what this book is about and what this talk is about is sort of taking that way of thinking and asking how far can you push it in terms of thinking about biology, organismic life, and socioeconomic life.
So Geoffrey West works at the Santa Fe Institute of Complexity in New Mexico, and generally they focus on complexity in various situations such as biology, economics, or sustainability. The main question of the video that I want to focus on today is, why do humans sleep 8 hours, dogs sleep 14 hours, and whales sleep 1.5 hours with actually half their brain still awake? So if we just plot this on a bar graph, we kind of see these numbers, and it's what the heck. So anyways, let's go to Excel, let's plot this weight versus sleep. Maybe there's a correlation there. Because the whale weighs so much, maybe let's plot it on a log scale and see, okay, so that's a little bit more linear. And now let's add some more data. So we got an elephant and a mouse, and let's try to fit it with a power law. Well, that doesn't really fit. Okay, an exponential. So it's a perfect exponential. So why is it a perfect exponential? That's pretty much what I want to explore in this video. Now, if we change the bars to be actually spaced properly, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 hours of sleep, that follows pretty perfectly. So let's see if Geoffrey West has an explanation for this, or if we're just gonna be like, what the heck, why is this sleep curve happening? Well, it turns out that Kleber's law is really integral to figuring this out, and an animal's metabolic rate scales to the 3/4 power of its mass. So as we see on this graph, this is Kleber's law plotted versus multiple animals. And I'll let Geoffrey West frame the question.
So for example, here's the most fundamental quantity. It's called metabolic rate, namely how much food you need to eat per day to stay alive. And that's plotted on the vertical axis, and on the horizontal axis is the size, and it's plotted logarithmically up by factors of 10. And what you see is something extraordinary. Here's probably the most complex phenomenon in the universe, metabolism, taking stuff and making it into life. Yet despite it being so extraordinarily complex, and despite the fact that each one of these organisms has evolved by natural selection with its own unique history, each subcomponent, each organ of these systems, each cell type, each genome has evolved with its own unique history, in which case you see this idea of sort of randomness of natural selection, in which case when you plotted something like this, you would expect these points to be all over this graph. They've all lined up on a very simple straight line when plotted in this way. So what the hell, where in the hell do all these extraordinary scaling laws come from? What is it that's driving them? What is it that's constraining the randomness and chaotic nature of natural selection?
So in his book, Geoffrey West points out that there are 3 principles of scale, and that the first one is terminal units. So when that relates to biology, terminal units will be the cells or the capillaries in your body, and all animals have the same terminal units. So a mouse is the same terminal units as a human, is the same terminal units as a whale. The second properties of scale is that everything must be space-filling. So the most common example is lungs. So in a human, lungs are about the size of a football, but if you expand them out, they're about the size of a tennis court in terms of surface area. So actually, another one of these facts is that if you took all your capillaries and veins and stretched them across the world, they would go around the world twice, which is pretty fantastic given surface areas. The third principle of scale is that an animal must utilize maximum energy efficiency, and this is shown in the Kleber curve, that as a body mass increases, the metabolic rate is sublinear increase. So as an organism increases in size, it also becomes 25% more efficient. So this is a pretty broad reasoning why sleep time actually decreases as you become a greater mass organism, and that's because due to network effects and economies of scale, you actually become a more efficient organism. So a whale is much more efficient than a mouse and slightly more efficient than an elephant. And here's Geoffrey West explaining how that affects to any physiological event.
But most importantly, in addition to this, is that this is true of any physiological or life history event. Here's a mundane one. This is heart rates, your heart rate. And you can see again, it's a pretty good straight line on this log-log plot. And the slope of this is close to -1/4, minus because it's negative. And here's U. This is your white matter to gray matter in your brain. This is the cables versus the operating part, and you can see there's a fantastic straight line. The slope of this is very close to 5/4.
Kleebler's law is the reason that scale occurs. It becomes 25% more efficient with greater mass. So if you really like that factual tidbit, check out Geoffrey West's book, Scale. It's one of the most fascinating books I've read in a while, and it's definitely changed the way that I look at just cities and organisms in general, and just how everything grows with size. There's definitely some really cool things in terms of cities that I might actually do in a future video, or I might do something on econophysics, and I'll try to post more regularly. Also, I'm using iMovie as a free editing software. If anybody has a better suggestion, feel free to let me know in the comments, or if you have a specific video or data that you'd like to see me analyze via scale, let me know. Like and subscribe. Talk to you later. Bye.
And of course you plotted logarithmically at first, because to get a mouse and an elephant, if you try to put the mouse here and you wanted to put the elephant on the same graph and it were linear, of course it would be somewhere, I don't know, in Tacoma.